That orphan has brought trouble to our village. She must be driven out. Come out of your hut, foolish girl! Open up now! You are one girl with no family and no standing in this village. You do not make these decisions alone. He must leave now!
Miriam, a young orphan, was cutting firewood by the river when she heard someone calling for help.
Huh?
Everyone else would have ignored
Who's
it.
there?
But Miriam's
there?
heart wouldn't let her
heard you.
walk away.
Where are you?
She
I'm
helped a stranger,
Hold still, you're
and that
hurt.
choice changed her life forever.
I know. This story is an original intellectual property of Africanfolktalesbyzee. All rights are reserved. No part of this story may be copied, reproduced, adapted, translated, or redistributed in any form.
Miriam woke before the sun did. That
Thank
was
you,
not
God, for
unusual.
another blessed
The sun
day.
had the luxury of rising slowly, stretching golden arms across the sky at its own pace. Miriam had no such luxury. She had firewood to cut, water to fetch, and a market to reach before the best spots were taken by women with husbands and helpers and reasons to arrive late. She rose from her mat on the mud floor of her one-room hut, folded her thin blanket with the careful precision of someone who owned very little and therefore treated everything with great care. She splashed cold water on her face from the clay pot by the door. She had one dress, a faded blue cotton dress her late
Auntie, I
aunt had
love it.
sewn
It's
for
so
her years ago.
beautiful.
She was ready.
You do, my daughter.
This was Miriam's life at 20 years old. No parents, no family, no one waiting for her at the end of the day. Her father had died of fever when she was 5. Her mother followed 2 years later, a sickness that started small and grew large before anyone understood it. Her aunt had taken her in,
from now on,
loved
my
her
daughter.
quietly, and then died herself when Miriam was 12. Since then, Miriam had been raising herself. Greenwood Village was not a cruel place. It was simply an ordinary place, which sometimes amounts to the same thing. People were not deliberately unkind to Miriam, they just did not go out of their way for her. She existed at the edges of their lives, noticed sometimes, mostly not. The children occasionally laughed at her torn dress. Mama Rosa, the village's most enthusiastic gossip, occasionally shook her head in that way that said everything without saying anything. Poor child. Nothing to show for herself.
Nothing to
offer anyone. But there was old Thomas. Old Thomas was 70 years old with a white beard and eyes that had seen enough of life to know what actually mattered in it. Every morning, without fail, he sat outside his door and greeted Miriam as she passed. Good morning, child.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
old Thomas.
Still standing?
Still standing?
Still standing.
Still standing. That small exchange,
Good morning,
4
child.
words
Good
from
morning,
each
old
of them,
Thomas.
was sometimes the
standing?
only kindness
Still
Miriam
standing.
received in an entire day. She carried it carefully, like water in a cracked cup, making sure not to spill a drop of it. On this particular morning, Miriam stopped at the small mound of earth at the edge of the village, the place where her mother was buried. She knelt beside it, placed her hand on the ground.
Good morning,
Good
Mama.
morning, Mama.
I'm still
Still
here.
here.
Still
fighting.
fighting.
I know you see me. She stayed one moment longer, then she stood, picked up her firewood axe and walked toward the river bush. She was humming a soft song her mother had taught her, a song about seeds and seasons and the faithfulness of God. She did not know as she walked that familiar path for the 10,000th time that today was not an ordinary day. Today, everything was different. She just didn't know it yet. The river bush was thick and green and smelled of wet earth and wild herbs. Miriam moved through it with the ease of someone who had walked these same paths 1,000 times. Her axe was small but sharp. She knew exactly which trees gave the best firewood. She knew where the roots ran shallow. She knew which paths the river flooded during heavy rains and which remained dry. She had just begun cutting when she heard it.
Huh?
A sound. Low,
Who's there?
weak, almost nothing. She stopped, held her axe still.
Who's
Listen.
there?
Silence. Only the river and the birds. Probably an animal, she thought.
Hello, is someone there?
She went back to cutting. Then she heard it again. This time it was unmistakable. It was human.
Who's there?
Miriam set her axe down carefully. She followed the sound deeper into the bush, pushing through tall grass, stepping over roots, patting branches with her bare arms. The sound was coming from a cluster of large leaves near the base of an old tree. She crouched down, pushed the leaves aside, and found him. A young man, lying on his side, curled slightly, as though he had crawled there and then been unable to move further. His shoulder was the worst of it, a wound, deep, wrapped poorly in a strip of his own clothing, soaked through with blood that had dried dark and brown. His face was pale beneath his dark skin, feverish, lips dry and cracked. One eye opened when she touched his arm. "Please," he whispered, just that one word. Miriam looked at him for exactly 3 seconds. She took in the wound, the cloth, the hands that were looking at her with the particular desperation of a person who has run out of options. Then she made her decision. "Can you stand?" she asked. "If you help me, then hold on to me." It was not easy. He was tall and she was small, and his weight was considerable, even weakened as he was. She used her firewood rope as a makeshift support across his back. She let him lean on her shoulder. She spoke to him constantly as they walked, not asking questions, just talking, telling him about the path, warning him about the route here, the slope there, her voice keeping him conscious. It took 40 minutes. When they reached the village edge, Miriam felt him tense. Then she understood why. Because Mama Rosa was standing right there. Within 3 minutes, half the village had gathered.
Miriam, who is this man? Where did you find him? He looks dangerous.
Dangerous. He could be a thief, a criminal.
Criminal.
Look at his clothes.
Look at
He's
his
not
clothes.
from here.
He's not from here. Mama Rosa stepped forward, arms crossed, the official voice of village judgment.
Miriam,
you foolish girl,
you have brought trouble to this village.
Who
gave you permission
to bring a stranger here? Miriam looked at the crowd, at their suspicious faces and crossed arms and eager eyes. She said 4 words. He needed my help. Then she walked past all of them and into her hut. Inside, she laid him on her only mat. She boiled water. She fetched the herbs her mother had taught her, the ones good for fever, the ones good for infection, the ones good for blood that had dried in a wound too long. She walked quietly and carefully. She did not ask his name. She did not ask what happened. She just walked. At some point, he opened both eyes and looked at her with an expression she had never seen on anyone's face before, like a man seeing something he had no category for. "You don't even know who I am," he said. Miriam continued cleaning his wound without looking up. "You're someone who needed help," she said simply. "That's enough for me."
3 days passed. The fever broke on the 2nd night. By the 3rd morning, he was sitting up. By the 3rd evening, he was eating the small portions of yam and broth that Miriam prepared, which she shared from her own already small rations without comment. Outside the hut, the village had not calmed down. Mama Rosa had organized a formal village meeting, a rare and serious thing reserved for genuine emergencies. The result was a delegation that came to Miriam's door on the 3rd afternoon. 7
Come out of your hut,
people.
foolish girl!
Mama Rosa at the front. Miriam, the village has decided the stranger must go by tomorrow morning. Miriam stood in her doorway. He is not well enough to travel. That is not our concern. It is my concern. He is my guest.
You are one girl with no family and no standing in this village. You do not make these decisions alone. He must leave now.
I made this decision alone when I found him.
I will see it through alone.
I will see it
He
through
leaves
alone.
when he is well.
He
leaves when he is well.
She closed the door. Inside, the man had heard everything. When she turned back to face him, he was looking at her with those eyes again, that expression she still had no name for. Miriam, he said, It was the first time he
need
had
to tell
used
you
her name.
something.
She had told him doing the nothing, not thinking he was conscious enough to hear. I need to tell you something. He reached into the lining of his torn garment. From a hidden interior seam, he withdrew a small object. He held it out to her. She took it. It was a seal, small, heavy, gold. On its face, an embossed crest, an eagle with spread wings above a rising sun. Miriam stared at it. Then she reached into the small cloth pouch at her waist and took out the only coin she had, a single piece she had been saving for 3 weeks. She looked at the face of the coin, at the crest stamped into its surface. Eagle, rising sun, identical. Her eyes moved from the coin to the seal and back again.
My name is Daniel,
he said.
I am the Crown Prince of
Aldara. Silence filled the small hut completely. You are lying,
You're lying.
Miriam said.
I wish I was.
Tell me everything.
She said. He told her everything. His father, King Raymond, gravely ill. His younger brother, Victor, whose ambition had cuddled over years into something dangerous. The hired assassins, the ambush on the royal road 3 days from the palace. His 3 guards, good men, loyal men, who died so that he could run. 2 days in the forest, feverish, bleeding, hiding, until he heard a woman humming in the bush.
If your brother's men find you here,
They will harm me, and they may harm anyone who helped me.
how long do you need?
3 more days, then I can travel.
Then you have 3 more days.
That night, a group of strangers entered Greenwood Village. They were asking questions. Had anyone seen a
We're looking for a
young
young man,
wounded,
wounded and alone.
traveling
Have you seen
alone?
him?
Mama Rosa opened her mouth. Old Thomas stepped in front of her.
No strangers here. Move on.
He said firmly. Move on. The men left. An hour later, Old Thomas knocked softly on Miriam's door. When she opened it, he looked past her at Daniel, and something moved across the old man's face. Recognition, relief, and 30 years of loyalty all arriving at once. He reached into his coat and pressed a small package into Miriam's hands. Plain traveling clothes, a small bread, a flask of water.
I served his father. Keep him safe. I will watch the road.
You could tell those men. The reward would change your life overnight.
My mother told me that a person who sells someone's life for comfort has no life worth living.
Where did you come from, Miriam?
The same place you found yourself, the bottom. The difference is I was born there. I never had further to fall.
He left before sunrise on the 4th day. Old Thomas had arranged everything: a safe route, trusted contacts along the road, the plain clothes that would hide a prince among common travelers. He turned to face her. She was standing in her doorway in her faded blue dress, her hair tied back, her bare feet on the cold mud floor. Behind her, the tiny hut that had sheltered a crown prince for 4 days. The hut with no furniture except a mat and a pot and a blanket.
I will come back for you.
You don't owe me anything.
I'm not coming back because I owe you. I'm coming back because I don't want to live in a palace that doesn't have you in it.
Go safely, Daniel. Daniel.
He walked into the grey morning. She watched until he disappeared. Then she went back inside and sat on her mat and held the one thing he had left, a small piece of the royal cloth, torn deliberately from the lining of his garment before he dressed in old Thomas's clothes. If anyone doubts your story, he had said, placing it in her hand, show them this. She folded it carefully and put it in her pouch beside her coin. Then, Miriam's suffering began in earnest. With Daniel gone, and the village's anger unresolved, the consequences arrived quickly. The market
No, Miriam,
sellers,
we can't buy
following
your
Mama
wood.
Rosa's lead,
That's right. We don't
refused
need
to
it.
buy Miriam's
Sorry, child.
firewood.
Please, I need the
1
money.
week, 2 weeks,
running out of
her
food.
small savings dwindled.
to find
She
more.
ate once a day, then sometimes not at all. Someone painted the word troublemaker on her door. She painted over it and said nothing. She was excluded from the communal water fetching hour, a small thing that became a large thing when the river was far and carrying alone was exhausting. She was not invited to the harvest gathering, not greeted by name in the path.
Hi, everyone.
Only
Good
old
morning.
Thomas remained faithful. They will understand one day, he said. I know, Miriam said. You're not angry?
You're not angry?
She thought about it
I'm
honestly.
tired, but
I'm
not
tired,
angry.
she said, but
Angry
not
takes
angry.
energy I
Angry
don't
takes
have.
energy I don't have. At night, she prayed. She took out the royal cloth and held it and talked to her mother's grave from inside the hut.
Mama, I don't know if I did the right thing. It feels like I did, but right things don't always feel comfortable after. He said he would come back. I don't know if he meant it. I don't know if he survived the road. I don't know anything. But I know who I am. I know what I did and why I did it. And I know you would be proud of me.
She slept on her empty mat. 3 days away, at the royal palace, a crown prince was arriving at the gates under cover of darkness, about to reclaim everything that had been taken from him. And his first question, before anything else, was this:
Is my father still alive?
The palace was unrecognizable. Not in structure. The walls still stood, the tower still rose, the great gate still gleamed. But the atmosphere had changed the way weather changes before a storm. A heaviness, a wrongness. Servants moved quickly with downcast eyes. Guards stood at unfamiliar posts. The laughter that King Raymond had always encouraged in his halls was completely gone.
Without question.
Victor had wasted no time. In 3 weeks, he had dismissed 7 loyal ministers and replaced them with his own men. He had restricted access to the king's chamber. Father needs rest, he told anyone who asked, while ensuring that King Raymond remained isolated and uninformed. He had begun signing documents with a seal that was almost, but not quite, the royal seal, training his ear to the sound of Your Highness when it was directed at him. He had also, in a quiet ceremony with only his closest allies present, begun referring to himself as regent. He had not yet said the word king out loud. He was saving that for the right moment. The right moment came on a Tuesday. Victor stood in the throne room before a gathered court, ministers, guards, advisors, palace staff. Gloria, the senior palace maid who had quietly aligned herself with Victor's rising sun, stood near the front. Victor had prepared his speech. He had practiced it. He opened his mouth. The great doors opened instead, and Daniel walked in.
This is impossible. You're dead. Disappointed?
What followed was swift and deliberate. Daniel's loyal advisors, who had spent 3 weeks quietly gathering evidence, stepped forward one by one. Letters in Victor's handwriting arranging the assassination, payment records, the testimonies of 2 captured assassins who had decided, when faced with a choice between loyalty to a failed plot and mercy from a living prince, to choose the living prince. Victor's allies collapsed almost immediately. Some genuinely wept. Others simply stepped away from him as though he were suddenly on fire. Victor himself tried words first, then anger, then a desperate attempt at the side door. The guards were already there. You were never strong enough, Victor spat as they took him. You were never fit to rule. Daniel looked at his brother for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice held no triumph, only sadness.
I could have been your greatest ally, Victor. I would have given you anything you asked for. You chose this instead. I hope you find peace. I mean that.
No!
Victor was taken away still shouting.
I won't go quietly.
The court was silent.
This is an
Then
outrage.
one by one, they knelt. Daniel did not go to the throne. He went first to his father's chamber. King Raymond was smaller than he remembered. The illness had taken weight and color from him, but his eyes opened when Daniel entered, and in those eyes lived everything: recognition, relief, love, and the specific peace of a parent who feared the worst and has been proven wrong. My son, King Raymond said.
I'm here, Father.
Daniel sat beside him
You're
and
alive.
took his hand.
I'm here, Father.
I'm here, Father.
You're alive.
You're alive.
Because of someone
extraordinary. He told the king about Miriam, the river bush, the tiny hut, the firewood axe, the village that laughed, the girl who gave her last blanket to a stranger without being asked and without expecting anything in return. The king listened to every word with his eyes closed and a faint smile on his face. When Daniel finished, the room was quiet. A girl with nothing
gave you
everything.
Yes,
The old
that
king
is the
said
rarest
softly.
thing. Don't lose
His
her.
grip
I
tightened on
won't,
his
Father.
son's hand. That is
Yes,
the rarest
that is
thing
the
in this
rarest
world,
thing.
Daniel.
Don't lose her.
Don't
I
use
won't,
her.
Father.
I won't, Father. King Raymond passed 3 days later, peacefully in his sleep. He had lived long enough to see his son come home. It was enough. On the morning of the 4th day, Daniel called for his horses. "Where are you going?" his advisor asked. "Greenwood Village, 3 days east." "Your Highness, there are matters of state that require..."
The
matters of state waited 3 weeks while I was missing. They can wait 3 more days. He mounted his horse.
I made a promise.
I made a promise. He rode. Miriam was at the river. Same as always. Same axe. Same path. Same song her mother had taught her, hummed under her breath while her hands worked. It had been 6 weeks since the morning she watched a man disappear into the grey dawn. 6 weeks of silence. 6 weeks of telling herself she had done the right thing, regardless of what came after. She had almost, not quite, but almost, stopped watching the road. She had the horses first. She thought nothing of it. Travelers passed sometimes. She kept cutting. Then she had the village. Greenwood Village did not make that sound for ordinary travelers. That sound, a collective gasp, followed by shouting, followed by what could only be described as collective confusion, was new. Miriam lowered her axe and turned toward the village. A royal procession filled the main path from edge to edge. Horses, guards in palace uniform, a banner she recognized from the coin in her pocket, and at the front, on the lead horse, wearing the full regalia of the crown, a man she last saw dressed as a farmhand walking into a grey morning. He was already dismounting, already walking toward the river path, already looking directly at her. Miriam stood very still with her firewood axe in her hand and her bare feet in the river mud. She watched the Crown Prince of Aldara walk down a village path toward her, and she thought, with remarkable calm, that this was either real or she had finally lost her mind from hunger. He stopped in front of her. He looked at her, the axe, the dress, the bare feet, the mud. Then Daniel, Crown Prince and now acting sovereign of Aldara, bowed his head to her. Behind him, the entire royal procession watched their prince bow to a girl holding a firewood axe. In the village, Mama Rosa sat down directly on the ground. Old Thomas wept quietly into his hands.
I told you I would come back.
I didn't believe you.
I know. Come with me, Miriam. The palace needs someone with your heart.
Miriam looked at his hand. Then she looked at the village, at the open mouths and wide eyes, and Mama Rosa on the ground, and old Thomas's happy tears, and the children who had laughed at her dress, now standing in stunned silence. She looked at her hut, her mat, her pot, her small life that had held her faithfully through years of having nothing. She reached out and took Daniel's hand. Then she turned back. "One moment," she said. She walked to old Thomas, took his hand in both of hers.
Pack what you need. You are coming with us. You will spend your remaining years in comfort. I will see to it myself.
Old Thomas could not speak. He nodded. She turned to Mama Rosa, still on the ground. Mama Rosa looked up at her with the expression of a woman who has watched every assumption she ever held about the world dissolve in a single afternoon.
Miriam, there is nothing to explain and nothing to forgive.
Thank you.
Mama Rosa's mouth trembled. She pressed Miriam's hand and said nothing because there was nothing adequate to say. Miriam turned back to Daniel. She was still holding her firewood axe. Daniel's advisor, riding just behind, cleared his throat meaningfully. Daniel looked at the axe, then at Miriam. Then he said simply, "She keeps the axe." The procession parted. Miriam walked through the middle of it, bare feet, faded dress, firewood axe, with her head higher than any crown could have lifted it. 3 months later, in the throne room of Aldara, Miriam stood beside Daniel as a crown was placed on her head. The same head that had bent over a wounded stranger in a bush. The same hands that had cleaned his wound with river water and herbs. The same heart that had shed its last portion without being asked. She was queen. Not because she had tried to be, not because she had performed or competed or schemed, but because she had simply, consistently, and completely been herself. That night, Miriam stood at the palace window looking out at the lights of the kingdom. Daniel came and stood beside her. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "I'm thinking about my mother," she said. "She used to say, 'Miriam, your good heart will take you somewhere you cannot imagine.'" She paused. "I used to think she was just a mother." Daniel took her hand. "She was being a prophet." Miriam smiled. Then quietly, to the night sky and the stars and the grave 3 days east in a small village where a woman was buried who gave her daughter nothing except a good heart and an unshakable faith. I see it, Mama. I see where my good heart took me. The final truth. Miriam did not save that man because she knew he was a prince. She saved him because he was a human being who needed help. She did not give her blanket because she expected a palace. She gave it because the night was cold and he was shivering. She did not endure the village mockery with grace because she knew vindication was coming. She endured it because her character did not depend on their approval.
But not
This
angry.
is the truth this
Angry
story
takes
carries.
energy I don't have.
Your good heart is not a weakness. Your kindness is not naivety. Your faithfulness in the season of nothing is not wasted. Every seed of goodness planted in the dark grows toward a light you cannot yet see. Help people not because of who they are. Help them because of who you are. That is the only legacy worth living. That is the only crown worth wearing.